The happiest place on Earth, I presumed.
If you like roadkill.
I don't get it. The Craigslist ass said we meet up for the Disney auditions here, but this place has seen better days.
Wait, people still use Craigslist? See, that was your first mistake. I guess we should just be lucky that this isn't someone's creepy basement.
Nah, Disney got those deep pockets. They could afford a dookie-covered dock to host their shady business.
I just want to play Mickey Mouse. But this place is too gross to be happy.
I'm sorry, Mickey Mouse?
Yeah, it was the role I was born to play, too.
Well, maybe we're supposed to meet them on that island over there.
Hoyle!
That island over there, with the atmosphere and the foreboding, into a back now place. That island, you mean? Yes?
Looks good to me. Let's get going.
Yeah! Onward to adventure and a full-time job!
So, do you regret signing on yet?
No, but I do regret turning down the tetanus booster.
Foolish anthropomorphoids. They uploaded a Halloween-themed video in November. Who's still thinking about Halloween? We've already got our Christmas decorations up.
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas! Ho, ho, ho!
I hate this series already.
Hello, I'm the stupid superhero.
Mr. Hand here, ready to go home now.
My name is Katie Lyon, and I'm not leaving until I get paid. Or have had the chance to see a ghost. I guess I'll be satisfied with either.
And I'm Crimson Badger. I'm still new here, and I would prefer to have a long and happy career, but I'm a teacher, so maybe I should just wait on the boat.
I'm Ralph Bear. Enough said. Well, if we aren't getting a job interview, let's at least take this opportunity to review something. If we can at least do that, I'll be satisfied.
Oh boy, a new episode for our, newest series, Creepie Sleepies. It used to be the stupid creepypastas, but we rebranded it.
You know what? I love this productivity. The creepypasta we're covering this week is Abandoned by Disney, written by Slime Beast. It's a story in the form of a blog or forum post that contains the recorded accounts of this guy who explores said abandoned theme park.
Disney built the Treasure Island Resort in Baker's Bay in the Bahamas. It didn't start as a ghost town. Disney's cruise ships would actually stop at the resort and leave tourists there to relax in luxury. This is a fact. Look it up.
Okay, smart guy, I will. According to our research, the island was purchased in the early 70s by Disney and christened Treasure Island in 74. But just 4 short years later, it was renamed to Discovery Island, which it remains to this day. It was primarily a zoological walking tour featuring exotic birds, monkeys, and reptiles. But not everything that lived there was put there by Disney. It was also a popular mating spot for the local gator population, and vultures straight up attacked animals while in front of guests.
Between that and the debut of the far more successful Disney's Animal Kingdom in 1999, the island was closed to the public and all the animals that weren't eaten were shipped off the island. Since we all know that Disney doesn't exactly like to pick up after themselves, virtually every building that was built there is now still standing, though it suffers substantial damages from hurricanes, general neglect, and whatever else lurks around. There doesn't seem to have been any resort there, likely because of the size of the island and conservational efforts to preserve the endangered species.
So, what was that about facts, Mr. Narrator Guy?
Yeah, as much as this is easy enough to debunk with the power of Google, I can see this being a lot scarier like, a decade or two ago, when info like this isn't readily available? I mean, there's just enough truth there to tantalize the reader into thinking, seems legit.
Disney blew $30 million on the place. Yes, $30 million. Then they abandoned it. Disney blamed the shallow waters, too shallow for their ships to safely operate, and there was even blame cast on the workers, saying that since they were from the Bahamas, they were too lazy to work for regular schedules. That's where the factual nature of their story ends. It wasn't because of sand, and it obviously wasn't because foreigners are lazy. Both are convenient excuses. No, I sincerely doubt those reasons were legitimate. Why don't I buy the official story? Because of Mowgli's palace.
Well, shit, here I was thinking it was because of horny alligators and hungry buzzards. That clears up everything.
Near the beachside city of Emerald Isle in North Carolina, Disney began construction on Mowgli's palace in the late 1990s. The concept was a jungle-themed resort with a large, you guessed it, palace in the center of the whole thing.
If you're unfamiliar with the character of Mowgli, then you might better remember the story The Jungle Book.
If you haven't seen it anywhere else, you know it as the Disney cartoon from decades past.
So, let me get this straight. On the off chance that someone doesn't remember The Jungle Book or Mowgli or any of those, you're just going to suggest that we remember a Disney character from decades past?
Real specific there, Arthur.
Yeah, I can remember a ton of Disney cartoons from the past, like Steamboat Willie, the Galapagos Cucho, the Plane Crazy, the Barn Dance.
Mowgli is a
We know.
So, the narrator explains that the making of this palace was just Disney stealing land from the locals to make their latest multi-billion-dollar tourist trap.
That's evil, like Saturday morning cartoons evil, which is silly because Disney cannot be that evil.
Well, evil is subjective considering Anaheim was supposedly ran by the KKK before they got bought out. Honestly, it's not really relevant to this though.
Oh, okay.
Also,
what?
At one point, a home that had just been constructed was immediately condemned with little to no explanation. The land grab by the government was supposedly for some fictional highway project. Knowing full well what was going on, people started calling it Mickey Mouse Highway.
Hey, Ralph, when do we go from Discovery Island to the town of North Carolina? And also, why?
I'm sorry, stupid. I'm still momentarily distracted that this place was built on a KKK burial ground. Hope you understand that.
Oh, well, Mickey Mouse Highway sounded like it would be fun, but it did suck if people were getting their homes taken away.
The narrator goes on to say that there was some concept art that was questionable, to say the least. Stuff like culturally insensitive clothing and motifs drove already xenophobic board members to freak the hell out.
If this guy is telling us a lot about this place, concept art, builds, costumes, almost, I kind of almost wish that we could research it, but it's really not the point of this entire thing at all. It's supposed to be scary, but instead we're given about too many paragraphs on lore. It's actually slightly exhausting.
We're talking about a large Indian palace, jungle, and loincloths, not only in the center of a relatively wealthy area, but also a somewhat xenophobic area of the southern USA. It was a questionable mix at that point in history. One member of the crowd tried to storm the stage, but he was quickly subdued by the security after he managed to break one of the presentation boards over his knee. Ow.
Wait, You're telling me white people were upset about the chance to feel more civilized than a group of people they knew nothing about? You know what? Calling it here, that's the most unrealistic part of this story.
Local TV and newspapers were against the resort at the beginning, but some insane connections between Disney's media holdings and the local venues came into play, and their opinions turned on a dime. So anyway, Treasure Island, the Bahamas, Disney stunk those millions and then split. The same thing happened with Mowgli's palace.
Oh, so that's how the two are related. They were both been abandoned by Disney. That shouldn't count.
Construction was complete, visitors actually stayed at the resort, surrounding communities were flooded with traffic, and the usual annoyances associated with an influx of lost and irate tourists. Then, it all just stopped. Disney shut it down and nobody knew what the hell to think. But they were pretty happy about it. Disney's loss was pretty hilarious and wonderful to a large group of folks who didn't want this in the first place. I honestly didn't give the place another thought since hearing it closed over a decade ago. I live maybe 4 hours from Emerald Isle, so really I only heard the rumblings and didn't experience any of it firsthand. Then, I read this article from someone who had explored the Treasure Island Resort and posted a whole blog about all the crazy shit he found there. Stuff just...
This is a PSA for all the people thinking about taking a trip to Discovery Island and its abandoned remains. Don't. It's actually super illegal and dangerous to go to Discovery Island nowadays.
Hey boys, it's a spy! How'd that plan turn out for you, dummy?
The punishment, at the very least, is a permanent ban from all Disney parks and probably way too many fines to afford.
Stuff just... left behind. Things smashed, defaced, probably ruined by the disgruntled former employees who had lost their jobs.
The author then goes on about how upset everyone is that this bungle in the Jungle Book released friggin' sharks. So obviously, they want to capitalize the hell out of this place on their Tumblr posts. If Tumblr is still relevant, that is.
Maybe if we're lucky, we'll get a 10-part Ken Burns thread.
I'm not going to say I wasted no time in getting there because honestly, it took me another year after I first found the Treasure Island article to get around to going up to Emerald Isle. Over the course of that year, I did a lot of research on the Palace Resort. Or rather, I tried to. Naturally, no official Disney site or resource made any mention of the place. That had been scrubbed clean. Even odder, however, was that nobody before myself had apparently thought to blog about the place or even post a photo. None of the local TV or newspaper sites had one word about the place. Though that was to be expected since they had all swung Disney's way. They wouldn't be out there lauding their embarrassment, you know.
Hey, if no one blogged about it and all the media was in the pockets of big old Disney, how did you find out about all the concept art and the guy bringing the presentation board over his knee? Cause those seem weirdly specific to just catch from an old "things are doing great here at Disney" newspaper article.
What he can't bring himself to say is that he had all the information but lost it in his latest frantic search history purge.
I hate death by PowerPoint reporters. All info, no substance. We get it, you did research. It's great that you're trying to build grounded suspense, but there has got to be a shorter way to say, I did a research, here's what I found.
I could barely find the place. All I had to go on was an old as hell map I'd received in the mail back in the 90s. It was a promotional item sent out to people who'd been to Disney World, and I guess since I had been there in the late 80s, that was recent? I don't know. I didn't really intend to hang on to it. It just got shoved in with all my books and comics from my childhood. I'd only remember it months into my research, and even then it took me another few weeks to locate the storage bin my parents had shoved it all into. But I did find it. Locals were no help, as most were transplants who had moved to the beach in recent years. Or old residents who just sneered at me and made rude gestures the second I managed to say, Where would I find Mowgli's?
Clearly, you were asking the wrong people. $20 says that any high schooler or freshman would have told you where it was. It might have been for an exchange of beer, but for some, I probably would have done it for free with the thrill of petty vandalism.
Who doesn't love a good smash and go?
This explains so much about parent-teacher conferences with your father and brother.
What I meant to say was, vandalism is wrong, and no one in my family would ever be caught doing it.
The drive took me through an inordinately long corridor of overgrowth. The tropical plants that had run rampant and overpopulated the area mixed with the native species of flora that actually belonged there and had tried to reclaim the land. I was in awe when I reached the front gates of the resort. Tremendous, monolithic wooden gates whose supports to either side looked like they must have been cut from giant sequoias. The gate itself had been gouged in several places by woodpeckers and eaten away at the base by burrowing insects. Hanging on the gate was a sheet of metal, some random scrap, with hand-painted letters scrawled in black. Abandoned by Disney.
Another title jump.
Clearly the handiwork of some past local or an employee who wanted to make some small protest. The gates were open enough to walk through, but not drive. So, grabbing my digital camera and the map, whose flip side showed a layout on the resort, I set off on foot. The inner grounds of the place were just as overgrown as the entryway. Palm trees stood unattended and ragged among piles of their own coconuts. Banana plants similarly stood in their own stinking bug-riddled refuse. There was this sort of clash between order and chaos as carefully planted rows of perennial flowers mixed with obnoxious tall weeds and stinking blackened mushrooms. Ugh. All that remained of any outdoor structures were broken, rotting wood, and various charred bits of unidentifiable material. What was most likely an information booth or an outdoor bar was now simply a pile of assorted debris chopped up by past vandalism and ravaged by weather. The most interesting thing on the grounds was a statue of Baloo, the friendly bear from the Jungle Book, which stood in a sort of courtyard in front of the main building. He was frozen in a jovial wave toward no one, staring into empty space with a silly, toothy grin as bird shit covered whole swaths of his fur and vines ensnared his platform. I approached the main building, the palace, only to find the outside of the building covered in graffiti where the original paint hadn't peeled and chipped away. The front doors weren't just open, they had been taken off their hinges and were stolen. Above the front doors, or the gaping maw where they had been, someone had once again painted, "Abandoned by Disney."
Title drop. Ha ha! Please. I hate this gag.
Hey, that's pretty funny when it's not happening to me.
Don't worry, stupid. The rule of 3 says it probably won't gonna happen again.
Yay!
I don't mind this part of the story, actually.
Oh, why?
There's a real sense of malicious abandon the way that he describes things as smashed, broken, and graffitied. Even the things untouched by man are still ravaged and reclaimed by nature. It's almost as though it's primal and angry, while still being foreboding and forgotten.
I'm not here for this place's sob story. Honestly, you could have kept this nonsense to a minimum and we could get to the point just as well. Trust thy audience, my main man.
But ambiance!
Honestly, I think I'd rather stay on the boat and not be killed.
Spoil sport.
I honestly wish I could tell you about all the awesome stuff I saw inside the palace. Forgotten statues, abandoned cash registers, a full-fledged secret society of homeless bums. But no. The inside of the building was so stark, so bare that I actually think people had stolen the molding off the walls. Anything that was too big to steal, counters, desks, giant fake trees, they They were all resting amid this empty echo chamber that amplified my every step, like a slow rat-a-tat of a machine gun.
Were you running? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not here to wait a minute, I am here to nitpick. Why a machine gun?
Yeah, and I get wanting to be realistic, but oh, brother! We sat through descriptions of weed and bird dookie to get told the room was empty?
A room with a moose!
Well, guess we could pack up and go home then.
Guys, it's just the first room. Surely the guy is not just gonna leave us hanging like this. Give him some time.
The kitchen was as you'd imagine. An industrial food prep area with all the appliances and space, no expenses spared. Every glass surface was broken, every door knocked off its hinges, every metal surface kicked and dented. The entire place smelled like very old piss. The huge freezer, not even remotely cool now, had row upon row of empty shelf space. Hooks hung from the ceiling, probably for hanging cuts of meat. And as I stood inside for a moment, I noticed they were swinging.
Spooky!
Each hook swung in a random direction, but their movements were so slow and small that it was almost impossible to see. I figured it had been caused by my footsteps, so I stopped one from swinging by clutching it in my fist, then carefully letting go. But within seconds, it started to swing once more. The bathrooms were in much the same state as the rest of the place. Just like the Treasure Island Resort, someone had methodically smashed each porcelain commode with coconuts and other implements. There was about a half-inch of rancid, stinking, stagnant water on the floor, so I didn't stay there very long. What's odd is that the toilets and the sinks, and the bidets in the ladies' room, yes, I went there, all dripped, leaked, or just ran freely. It seemed to me like they should have shut the water off long ago. There were plenty of rooms in the resort, but naturally I didn't have time to look through them all. The few I did peer into were similarly wrecked, and I didn't expect to find anything there. I thought there was actually a television or radio in one room, as I really think I heard a quiet conversation coming out. Though, it was like a whisper. Probably my own breathing echoing in the silence, or just another case of the sound of flowing water playing tricks on the mind. This is what it sounded like.
Instead of letting this guy talk to himself, we decided to recreate it just for you in the best way we know how.
I didn't believe it.
You mean you don't believe it?
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Your father told you.
Boo-hoo, boo-boo-hoo. That's Ralph and Stupid, ladies and gentlemen.
I know, that sounds ridiculous. I'm just telling you what I experienced. Why I thought there might have been something running in that room. Or worse, some vagrant who had holed up there and probably would have knifed me. At the front doors of the palace again, I figured I hadn't found anything of note and had wasted the trip up. As I looked out the door, I noticed something interesting in the courtyard that I apparently missed. Something that would give me at least one thing to show for all my trouble, even if it was just a photograph. It was a lifelike statue of a python, maybe 80 feet long, coiled up and sunning itself on a pedestal right in the center of the area. It was almost time for the sun to start setting, so the light fell onto the object in the perfect way for a photograph. I approached the python and snapped a photo. Then I stood on my toes and snapped another. I moved closer again to get the detail of its face. Slowly, casually, the python lifted its head, looked directly into my eyes, turned, and slithered off of the pedestal across the grass and into the trees, all 80 feet of it. Its head long disappeared into the woods before its tail even left the sunning spot. Disney had released all their exotic animals onto the grounds. Right there on my floor plan map was the reptile house. I should have known. I'd read about the sharks at the Treasure Isle, and I should have known they'd done this.
Can I keep her?
What? No! What do you expect to keep that thing?
And delicious.
Damn, girl, you okay?
Yeah. Just give me a second. I have a really fast metabolism.
How'd you do that?
I told you it was fast. No hard feelings, Katie? Katie?
Just go on with the stupid creepypasta already.
I was dumbfounded, just utterly stupefied. My mouth must have been hanging open for the longest time before I came back down to earth and snapped it shut. I blinked a few times and backed away from where the snake had been, back toward the palace. Even though it was totally gone, I still wasn't taking any chances and backed my way into the building. I took a few deep breaths and slaps to my own face to get myself right into head again after that. I looked for a place to sit down, as my legs were feeling a bit like jelly at this point. Of course, there was no place to sit down, unless I wanted to recline in the broken glass and dead leaf carpet, or held myself up onto a desk of questionable reliability. I had seen some stairs near the palace's lobby, and decided to go have a seat there until I felt better. The stairs was far enough away from the front of the building to be relatively clean, save for a startling accumulation of dust. I pulled a wedge of metal off the wall, once again painted with the "Abandoned by Disney" motto I've become accustomed to.
Shut the hell up!
No, please have mercy.
See, stupid? I told you. It's the rule of...
Stairway led downward below ground level, using my camera flash as a sort of improvised flash. Oh, come on! Interrupting me again!
Okay, I'm sorry. I know that the narrator has just started again, but like, you're supposed to be an urban explorer, and you didn't bring a flashlight, a necessary part of survival. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, every Boy Scout or adventurer knows if they're going to an abandoned building, they need a flashlight, a mask, and some gloves.
Wow, stupid. That was a surprising amount of foresight for you. Great job.
Yep, that's all you need, so we can get rid of the rest of this stuff.
Stupid? What was in that bag?
Nothing important. Just some bottled water, some protein bars, and the keys to the Stoomobile.
Ah, I see. So, you're telling me that you just got rid of our only method of escape by carelessly tossing them in a dark, murky, 10-foot deep puddle?
You bet your sweet Pippi I did.
I could see that the staircase ended in a metal mesh door with a padlock. A sign on the door, a real sign, read, "Mascots only, thank you!" This perked up my spirits a little bit, for two reasons. One, a mascots only area would have definitely had some interesting stuff back in the day. Two, the padlock was still in place. Nobody had gone down there. Not the vandals, not the looters, nobody. The mascots only area was a startling and very welcome change from the rest of the building I'd seen. For one, every second or third fluorescent light overhead was illuminated, even though they flickered and faded randomly. Also, nothing had been stolen or broken, even if age and exposure were definitely taking their toll. It was like one of those post-apocalyptic movies where everything is left in the state of evacuation.
Oh yeah, it's a real Mad Max situation up in here. Where's Toe Cutter and Johnny the Boy when you need them?
I don't know. Do you? Thanks anyway.
This place is a fucking maze. How is anyone supposed to find their way around here?
You know, I'm starting to think these auditions are a front for something. Now, what are you so worried about? You're a badger. You're not afraid of nothing.
Yeah, but I also want to live and avoid danger.
You were saying?
Oh, fuck you.
As I walked the maze-like sub-basement hallways of the mascots only area, the sights just became more and more interesting. As I went further, desks and tables were knocked over, papers scattered and almost melted with the damp floor, and a large carpet of mold was slowly overtaking the real rotting crimson floor covering. Everything was just sort of squishy. Anything wood disintegrated into mush when I applied even the least amount of force, and clothing items hanging on hooks in one of the rooms simply fell to moist threads if I tried to unhook them. One thing that annoyed me was that the light was becoming more sparse and unreliable as I went further into the dank, suffocating depths of the place.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's almost like you should have brought your own flashlight to an abandoned building and an island on the middle of nowhere. Dumbass.
Eventually, I reached a black and yellow striped door with the words Character Prep 1 stenciled on it. The door wouldn't open at first. I figured this was probably where the costumes were kept, and I definitely wanted a photograph of that twisted, stinking mess. Try as I might, whatever angle or trick I tried, the door wouldn't budge. That is, until I gave up and started to walk away. That was when there was a slight popping sound, and the door creaked open slowly.
Spookier!
Inside the room was completely dark, pitch black. I used the camera flash to look for a light switch in the wall by the door, but there was nothing. As I made my search, I was jarred out of my sense of excitement by a loud electrical buzz. Rows of light overhead suddenly flashed to life, flickering and fading in and out like the rest I had passed. It took a second for my eyes to adjust, and it seemed like that the light was just going to keep getting brighter until the bulbs exploded. But just when I thought it would reach that critical stage, the lights dimmed a bit and steadied. The room was exactly as I pictured it. Various Disney costumes hung on the walls, fully put together like strange cartoon cadavers hung from invisible nooses.
Huh. I can't tell if this is an old paper cut or if I just cut myself on all this edge.
Actually, that's probably from the machete you broke.
There was an entire rack of loincloths and native clothes on hangers towards the back. What I found odd, and what I wanted to photograph right away, was a Mickey Mouse costume at the center of the room. Unlike the other costumes, it was lying on its back in the center of the floor like a murder victim. Fur on the costume was rotten and shedding, creating bare batches. What was even odder, however, was the coloring of the costume. It was like a photo negative of the actual Mickey Mouse. Black where he should be white, and white where he should be black. His normally red overalls were light blue. The sight was off-putting enough that I actually put off photographing the thing until last.
Oh no! It's Darkwing Duck's arch nemesis, Mega Mickey! Wait, what?
I took a picture of the costumes hanging on the walls. Upward angles, downward angles, side shots to show an entire row of frozen, putrid cartoon faces. Some with plastic eyes missing. Then I decided to stage a shot. Just one of the bedraggled character heads on the slick, grimy floor. I reached for the headpiece of a Donald Duck costume and carefully removed it so the thing wouldn't fall apart in my hands. As I looked into the face of the wide-eyed, moldering head, a loud clattering sound made me jump with fright. I looked down at my feet, and there between my shoes was a human skull. It had fallen out of the mascot head and shattered into pieces at my feet. Only the empty face and lower jaw remained, staring up at me.
Look, guys, there was a prize in mine!
I dropped the duck head immediately, as you'd expect, and I moved for the door. As I stood in the doorway, I looked back to the skull on the floor. I had to take a picture of it, you know? I had to! For any number of reasons that may seem silly, but only if you don't think it through. I need proof of what happened, especially if Disney was going to somehow make this go away. I had no doubt in my mind, right from the start, that even if it was just gross negligence, Disney was responsible for this. That's when Mickey, that photo negative opposite Mickey in the middle of the floor, started to get up. First sitting up, then climbing to its feet, Mickey Mouse costume, or whatever was inside of it, stood there at the center of the room, its fake face just staring directly at me as I mumbled, "No," over and over and over.
And over 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 and over.
Shaking hands, a violently thrashing heart, and legs that had once again turned to jelly. I managed to lift the camera and aim it at the opposite creature, now quietly sizing me up. The digital camera's screen displayed only dead pixels in the shape of the thing. It was a perfect silhouette of the Mickey costume. As the camera moved in my unsteady hands, the dead pixels spread, marring the screen wherever Mickey's outline moved to. Then the camera died. Went black and quiet and broken. I raised my eyes once again to the Mickey Mouse costume.
Hey!
It said in a hushed, perverted but perfectly executed Mickey Mouse voice.
Wanna see my head come off?
Oh God! Oh my God! You gotta be kidding me!
It would have been scarier if he just kept his mouth shut.
Maybe he's friendly. It doesn't hurt to ask.
Should we help him or?
It started to claw at its own head, working its clumsy, glove-clad fingers around its neck with clawing, impatient movements, similar to a wounded man trying to pull himself free of a predator's jaws. As it worked its digits into its neck, so much blood, so much thick, chunky, yellow blood.
I'm sorry, yellow? That is not blood, my good sir. Fat, maybe bile or pus, but not blood. Blood goes from bright red to dark red to brown to black. There is no detour into yellow.
Wait, I'm sorry, I'm kind of with on this one. Did that just say yellow blood? Blood's not yellow. I turned away as I heard a sickening tearing of cloth and flesh. I only cared about getting away. Above the doorway of this room, I saw the final message, clawed into the metal with bones or fingernails.
Abandoned by God.
Okay, that's enough of that. Let's find out who this imposter Mickey really is.
Okay. I'm opening the floor to suggestions. How do we handle this?
We trap it.
Oh no. I know where this is going.
Now there's a rope hanging on the wall over there. Kay and I will hold it low to the ground so the monster can't see it. Stupid and Crimson can jump from behind. And Mr. Hand, you...
Oh no. Oh no. I will not be bait this time. And you can't even... And there's already a big red X under me, is there? God damn it!
Alright, gang. Now we'll figure out who Nega Mickey really is.
Michael Eisner? Wait, that ain't right. Jeffrey Katzenberg?
Smuck, he's history's greatest monster.
Wait, no, we got one more.
Dee?
But, Poodle Mom, why?
You never pay your rent. I got so sick of it that I lured you out here to scare you away so I could rent the apartment to somebody who'd actually pay on time.
That's cold, Oodles. How can you do this to me like that?
Sorry, hun, but at least for this episode, it's strictly business.
Well, how much do you need?
700.
All I've got is 520.
I'll take what I can get. Between this and what Mr. Hand paid, you're covered. Welcome home.
Wait, Mr. Hand paid?
Well, duh, Yogi. I always pay my part of the rent.
Yeah, he does. In full.
Oh, the day is saved, thanks to Sugar Mama Badger.
Please don't call me that.
Did you make that kind of scratch teaching kids? Question mark.
Oh, hell no, I have an OnlyFans.
Anyway, the creepypasta ends with the vlogger guy running away from Nigga Mickey and posting some stuff online. Despite seeing all kinds of dead stuff and chunky yellow blood, he seemed perfectly okay. The end.
Well, the first 2/3 of this weren't bad. We don't often get a detailed description of an environment like this in a creepypasta. But what the hell was that ending?
Yeah, that ending was rough. I also feel like he tried to shoehorn in some characters that really didn't need to be here just for the FNAF fans. Plus, the casual voice of the pros got kind of bogged down by some flowery dialogue.
It was pretty atmospheric and did a good job building up on suspense until he dropped the ball and lost it. So overall, the super review score we decided on was a B. It sure wasn't the worst thing we read on this channel, but it could have been executed so much better.
With the mystery solved, the pasta greeted, and the rent paid, I think that's all we can do for this episode of Creepie Sleepies. So, until next time, sleep tight.